For the next few minutes, I'm just going to have a quick chat about my viewpoint on PRINCE2 and AgilePM. I'm quite often asked, do I have to suddenly switch from PRINCE2 to AgilePM? What's the difference? Why is one any better than the other? Well, there is no answer to that in that there is one no better than the other. They both do very similar things, just take a slightly different approach to it. And this is quite useful because a lot depends on the particular type of project you have and also whereabouts you are in the project. Look, basically, PRINCE2 is a great framework and a guidance for getting you through projects. AgilePM is as well. Probably the key differences between them are A, the labels they use, and secondly, that PRINCE2 tends to look at the process, whereas AgilePM will look at phases. But at the end of the day, if you look at starting up a project in PRINCE2 as a process, it is also a phase. It's a phase on the early part of the high-level part of the project, understanding at high level what the project is really about. And that's what you're doing in feasibility in AgilePM. Basically, between the two of them, you're looking at the formal understanding of the project at high level as a project at this point. Both of them start with pre-project at portfolio level or even program level, if you look at the next level down from portfolio, to understand what that project is there to deliver. So in the end, as much as AgilePM says I've got a phase with a series of activities, getting the documents up and running and getting a clear understanding of what the project's about, so is PRINCE2 doing exactly the same thing, right? It's just got what they call a process where you go through their reasonably formal steps. But at the end of the day, you don't run a pure PRINCE2 project. You don't run a pure AgilePM project. They don't exist because no project runs the same way all the way through the project. And if you go and look at my document on PM tips, I wrote an article, Choosing the Project Approach. When I say the project approach, it's not the, it's how do I know what I need to do at any part in my project throughout the whole time frame, because it can change. Okay, so, and the other subtle difference between them, besides those labels, etc., really, the roles are going to be the same, you know, whether it's a project executive or whatever it happens to be, it's the same as the business sponsor. They're doing virtually the same thing. What anybody ever says, at the end of the day, it's about governance, it's about ultimate decision making, it's about accountability for the project success from a business perspective. And what does that mean? It means, am I making the right investment for this project for what it's going to deliver for me? Right? The benefit is understood by the sponsor executive, but at the end of the day, the benefit's down to the visionary stroke senior user who understands what that benefit's going to be. But collectively, they represent the business. Right? And interesting enough, remember, all projects are business projects. Even if you're redecorating your home, you're relocating, you're doing the garden, you're going on holiday, it's still a business project. Why? Because there's money involved in investing in something. Right? And therefore it's a business decision. Is it worth putting my money into it? Right? And the other point is, what is quite interesting with PRINCE2 is it doesn't actually talk about delivery. And yet the irony is, what is a project doing? It's delivering an output. And the output therefore drives an outcome which ultimately leads to your benefit. Well, AgilePM does do that in more detail because it talks about teams and it talks about people working at that level. Right? That's the only other subtle difference. When you're running a PRINCE2 project, if you want to go down that path, you're still going to be delivering products because that's what the project is there to do. PRINCE2 doesn't actually talk about working at that level. It leaves it to their team manager and the team working underneath it, which is what you talk about when you talk about the solution development team within AgilePM. Now, the irony is, ultimately, they both follow a similar pattern because all projects need to follow a similar pattern. Now, don't get confused. This pattern has got nothing to do with waterfall. Waterfall is just an odd mindset, which actually, in my personal opinion, is just a very poor way of describing a badly run project, really. And that means ISO 21500, the standard high-level view, a high-level understanding of the project, feasibility starting up if you like, planning the project, initiating a project in foundations, and then you're going to run that plan through evolutionary development or through the controlling stage in managing product delivery, with boundaries to control the end state to make decisions Are we where we want to be? Are we on the right to deliver what I want to do, which is to achieve that benefit? And then you close the project. 4 standard phases. All projects need to go through them. Now, how you treat them and how you feed back between one and the other, that's where the agility comes in. And this is a different concept. This is a different mindset, right? Not a rigid following of the process. The process there is a guidance, right? So between AgilePM and PRINCE2, they both do very similar things. It's just the way you need to work. And quite frankly, and a mix of the two of them and a whole part of other tools and techniques are there as well, okay? But remember, you are in a project, and a project is about governance, delivering a benefit, and the investment for delivering that benefit. And that's why you need decision making and direction being given from an area that understands that, from senior management, if you like, which we call the project executive, or whoever's running the project, business sponsor from an AgilePM perspective. So just remember that. There is no variation. There are only 2 real methodologies to provide you a life cycle and understanding of a series of documents, because you need plans, you need a business case, you need to understand the roles and responsibilities, right? And therefore they also provide that governance, and they provide a life cycle to take you through in a logical format, going from high level to delivering and closing. That is a logical sequence. How you loop back and feedback between them is entirely how you need to orchestrate the project. So that's just some understanding. If you've got any questions, then obviously please ask them more specifics. There are tools, and there's a couple of videos that talk about the traditional view and the relationship between AgilePM and PRINCE2 and the 3 of them, right? And a few other bits as well on the channel. So please review. Any questions, fire back. And I hope that's given you some understanding. Thank you.